Tonight, the president declares a national emergency.
I'm going to be signing a national emergency.
This after signing a deal to avert another government shutdown.
Sadly, we'll be sued, and sadly, it'll go through a process, and happily, we'll win.
Plus, more from our exclusive interview with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
And the 2020 race is already heating up, with more women joining a diverse field of Democrats.
And we'll let you know your account has been paid in full, man. You're clear to graduate.
And a church helps a group of students clear their debts.
All that and more tonight on Faith Nation. And welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Bratter.
And I'm John Jessup. Today, President Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border.
The move allows him to bypass Congress to secure funding for a wall between the U.S. and Mexico, but not before some potential legal battles.
That's right. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy was in the Rose Garden during the announcement and has more. Ben?
Well, John and Jenna, quite frankly, this was the president's last option after Congress passed a bipartisan deal that did not fund his wall. It's already drawing criticism on Capitol Hill and could even face rounds of legal action.
I'm going to be signing a national emergency.
President Trump declared a national emergency after lawmakers failed to give him what he wanted for border security.
I went through Congress. I made a deal. I got almost $1.4 billion when I wasn't supposed to get $1. Not $1. He's not going to get $1. Well, I got $1.4 billion.
But the $1.4 is a fraction of the money he demanded. The president's new plan would lock down $8 billion for a border wall. The White House says Trump plans to tap accounts in the Treasury and Defense departments. The move aims to stop illegal drugs, gangs, and human traffickers from crossing into the U.S.
They go through areas where you have no wall. Everybody knows that. Nancy knows it. Chuck knows it. They all know it. It's all a big lie. It's a big con game.
But the game has just begun as House Democrats plan to challenge the president's declaration.
And we will have a national emergency, and we will then be sued, and they will sue us in the Ninth Circuit, even though it shouldn't be there. And we will possibly get a bad ruling, and then we'll get another bad ruling, and then we'll end up in the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll get a fair shake, and we'll win in the Supreme Court.
Now, President Trump is talking about a legal battle that could actually slow down wall construction for months, even years. John, Jenna?
Yeah, Ben, talk to us more about these potential legal challenges. The president laid it out pretty clearly there.
Yeah, Jenna, lawmakers argue the president is abusing his authority. State attorney generals are saying they will challenge the declaration in court, expected to include landowners affected and even environmental challenges. Lawsuits could also come from states who fear they could now lose federal money.
Ben, can you also explain why some Republicans are against the president declaring a national emergency for the border wall?
John, great question. Some Republicans warn that future Democratic presidents could now use this to force spending of their own priorities like gun control or even global warming. Trump argued that President Obama made emergency declarations, though critics cite past presidents didn't use emergency powers to pay for projects that Congress would not support. John, Jenna?
All right, Ben Kennedy for us at the White House. Thank you, Ben. Well, for more on the implications of this newly declared national emergency, CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson sat down with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
That's right. Abigail spoke with the California congressman on a host of topics, ranging from the border to a growing tide of anti-Israel bias among Democrats and legislation on the Hill that would protect infants born alive after a botched abortion. Abigail?
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tells CBN News he supports President Trump declaring a national emergency to fund the border wall, even though it's almost certain to face a lengthy legal challenge.
There is a national emergency along this border, and the president has the right to do that. He wants to get, if you listen to the experts, and that's what this does, if you listen to the experts, they need about a little over 200 more miles of wall. It's not sea to shining sea. It's in the areas where we have our biggest problems.
McCarthy feels confident they'll get the wall built.
This president works very hard at keeping his promises, and this is one of his biggest.
and says he sees the bipartisan compromise bill as a down payment.
I think we'll get it done, because when you look at this with Nancy Pelosi saying only $1 for the wall, now we're getting about $1.4 billion, and we'll get the rest. They were going to eliminate ICE. No, we got more money from them. They're going to eliminate beds. Not able to do that. I think this is not a 100% victory, but it's a 1-2 step that we can finish the job completely.
Another top issue for McCarthy right now, passing the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act.
If a child is born alive, you got to do every medical possible to save it. So if they're trying to have an abortion and the baby survives, you've got to save that life.
McCarthy and other Republicans are trying to bring the bill to the House floor each day, but keep getting blocked by Democrats.
We're going to ask every single day, and then we'll start a discharge petition to make sure to bring this bill forward.
For that, he'll need 218 signatures, which will be tough in the Democrat-controlled House.
This should not be a partisan issue. Everybody should be able to support this.
And he believes this will be a big issue in 2020.
And when I sit back and look at what this new Democrat majority is doing, one, holding us back from Born Alive protection, two, this new Green Deal, which would eliminate cars, you'd have to remodel every house, every building. It'd eliminate millions of jobs. And then you look at they want to raise taxes. I mean, it's not what I think the American public was looking for.
What do you make of Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar's recent comments that seem to go against the Democrat Party's historically pro-Israel stance?
I think it's a changing Democratic Party. When you talk to many of the new Democrat members, they don't even call themselves Democrats. They're now the new Democrat Socialist Party. And this is the younger, more aggressive, and this is what's taking over the Democratic Party.
Despite bipartisan outcry from Congresswoman Omar's comments suggesting lawmakers support Israel because of lobbyist money, it doesn't appear Democrat leadership will remove her from committee assignments, including House Foreign Affairs. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thank you, Abigail. Well, to 2020 now, and the growing field of Democratic presidential candidates. Last weekend, 2 more women made it official.
That's right, and that was Senators Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, the latest to officially declare. As Amber Strong shows us, these candidates are all trying to figure out how to stand out in an already crowded field.
I am a candidate for President of the United States of America.
From the land of the Alamo to late-night couches.
I'm filing an exploratory committee for President of the United States tonight.
To a cozy kitchen talk.
So, this is my sweetie. Hello.
Democratic candidates are looking for fresh ways to connect with voters in a race that's still a year away.
New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is the latest entry. She made waves in 2017 after calling out fellow Democrat Al Franken for sexual indiscretions. Now she's leaning into a winning topic for Democrats, health care.
Because as a young mom, I'm going to fight for other people's kids as hard as I would fight for my own, which is why I believe that health care should be a right and not a privilege.
And former Obama HUD Secretary Julian Castro hopes to strike a chord with immigration.
Together we will show that hope can be bigger than fear, that light can be bigger than darkness, and that truth can be bigger than lies.
Then there's former California Attorney General and Senator Kamala Harris.
And our children and our grandchildren will ask at that inflection moment, where were you?
She's expected to answer that very question on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. If the bingo card of likely candidates brings back memories, it could be because the last time around 17 Republicans slugged it out for the presidency. But as we know, there can only be one. According to a December Quinnipiac poll, former VP Joe Biden tops the list of favorable candidates, followed by Senator Bernie Sanders. With that stiff competition, Democrats want their candidacy to stick out. Take a look at life on the southern border through the eyes of Beto O'Rourke's Instagram.
This is my mood mix.
Jam along to Harris's mood mix on Twitter.
A song that lifts my spirits always, oh happy day.
Or come home with Senator Elizabeth Warren. She announced her intentions in December.
Hold on a sec, I'm gonna get me a beer.
But candidates beware of how you use social media. The commander in tweet will likely be watching and waiting for a time to strike. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
One of the main contours we're going to be watching when it comes to the 2020 race is Donald Trump and the woman vote. Many women, obviously on the Democrat side, already getting in, a record number. Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard, and Kirsten Gillibrand, and of course, all of them taking shots at the commander-in-chief.
And what President Trump has done is destroy that moral fabric. He's literally torn this fabric of who we are as a nation.
By the time we get to 2020, Donald Trump may not even be president.
He is now holding the American people hostage over a vanity project that he calls a wall.
And let's not forget, of course, the women in white, those Democrat freshman lawmakers, and not just the freshman lawmakers, but there are more women in Congress now than ever before, something that Donald Trump pointed out, and it was a bit of bipartisanship during the State of the Union.
We also have more women serving in Congress than at any time before.
And of course, there's a reason Donald Trump shouldn't expect that. Look at the headlines coming on this. This one pretty true to form. Strong Democratic women are Trump's kryptonite. It could be the case. We'll get to some polling in a moment. But on the pro-Trump side of this, the White House will argue that Donald Trump has actually been pretty good when it comes to how women are flourishing in American society today. As a matter of fact, some statistics, female unemployment currently at a 50-year low, 3.9%. And of course, a central component of the tax cuts was that child tax credit. It doubled to $2,000 per child. So they'll highlight some of this. But having said that, there are a lot of things on the other side of the ledger that are going to be concerning for the White House that they're going to have to combat. For example, how will Donald Trump treat some of those 2020 Democrat women on the campaign trail? I think that's going to be very interesting to watch because the media is going to make a lot of it. Now, let's be honest, Donald Trump is an equal opportunity offender. He takes pride in that. I'm sure he does. But still, there will be an extra dynamic or an extra layer to watch, especially how he treats Democrats running for president. Also, look at this poll statistic. 6 in 10 independent women strongly disapprove of Donald Trump. Now, that's an ABC News Washington Post poll. The margin of error is pretty huge. 2020 is not here yet, but it bears watching. Once again, 6 in 10 independent women strongly disapprove of Donald Trump. He's going to need as many of those women as possible come 2020. David Brody for CBN News in the newsroom for Faith Nation.
Thank you, David. Well, still ahead, the case of the cross. How a Supreme Court case over this public landmark could affect others like it across the country.
Well, a huge cross towers over the Bladensburg World War I Veterans Memorial in Maryland.
That's right. It was not put there, though, for religious reasons. Still, that hasn't stopped a few people from demanding the cross come down, which could threaten crosses like it nationwide.
As Paul Strand reports, the case over the cross now goes before the U.S. Supreme Court February 27th.
The Bladensburg Memorial went up to remember 49 men from the area lost in World War I, their bodies buried near faraway battlefields. It's in the shape of a big cross because crosses mark those graves in Europe. It's not about religion, but recalling actual graves.
Still, some say it has to come down as a violation of the so-called separation of church and state. The Supreme Court's ruling in this case has huge implications.
If this memorial is able to be destroyed, that means that bulldozer is going to turn from Bladensburg and roll across the river over to Arlington National Cemetery, where we'll start knocking down the Argonne Cross, the Canadian Cross of Sacrifice, and may even make its way down to Teddy and Bobby Kennedy's graves, which themselves have grave markers in the shape of a cross.
Lawyer Jeremy Dice is with the First Liberty Institute, which is fighting for the cross to stay. Does the Peace Cross go against the First Amendment? Dice's team argues no way. It does not violate the Establishment Clause because it does not coerce belief in, observance of, or financial support for religion.
Unless something is coercing someone into a religious belief or physically creating an actual church, establishing a church that you have to worship at, that's not an establishment of religion.
Is the cross even used for religious purposes? Cross defenders argue, in the near century it has stood, the community has used the Peace Cross as a site for hundreds of events honoring veterans. By contrast, the record mentions only a single religious event that may have occurred at the Peace Cross, and that was in 1931 by an out-of-town preacher.
In 2014, some atheists decided to sue the state of Maryland because they think it violates the Constitution to have it there, and they found it, and I'm quoting from their brief, they found it offensive to even drive by it.
If those who demanded the Maryland cross come down think this is what most Americans want, they have another think coming. A new poll shows 84% want it to stay put. Just 2% want it demolished. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Paul. Well, this week a Christian student lost her case in court. Kaylee Wood said a historical lesson on the Muslim world forced her to embrace Islam in conflict with her Christian faith.
The court said this week that school officials in Southern Maryland did not violate Wood's First Amendment rights because the curriculum, quote, did not compel Wood to profess any belief.
And the ruling comes after President Trump spoke out recently in favor of Bible literacy classes taught in public schools, declaring in a tweet, giving students the option to study the Bible is great.
The president's support comes as lawmakers have introduced Bible literacy bills in Florida, Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Virginia, and West Virginia, some of which have already been voted down.
And joining us now to talk about the fine line separating church and state, Tom Reese is a Jesuit priest and a senior analyst at Religion News Service. Father Reese, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you.
Well, Father Reese, let's start off with this Christian student who challenged a school history lesson on Islam and lost. This seems as though it could potentially spark more lawmakers to push for these Bible literacy bills. Do you see that potentially happening?
Well, this is a very interesting case because what the school was trying to do is teach about Islam, not turn their students into Muslims. And we have the same issue in teaching about the Bible. You know, our students need to know about the Bible. It's part of history. You can't understand Western literature or Western art without understanding the Bible. So it's important, but at the same time, we don't want public schools proselytizing. We don't want them trying to, you know, support one particular view of Christianity over another.
One of the sticking points in this case, Father, was a statement that was in a slide, and this is a quote. This slide said, "Most Muslims' faith is stronger than the average Christian." How does this play into all of that?
Well, that was, I think what the school was trying to do was make a factual statement. It would be like saying the Amish have stronger faiths than Catholics. I think I'd probably have to admit that, even though I'm a Catholic. It wasn't so much a value judgment or saying that Muslims' faith is better than Christians, but if we look at them and see how they practice their faith. But, you know, I think if I was advising the teacher, I would have said, drop that slide.
Yeah.
This case originated in Maryland. The student's attorney is already talking about taking the case on appeal. It potentially could go before the Supreme Court. We don't know. But what does this say about the line separating church and state?
Well, I think public schools need to be very sensitive to the faiths of their students and also the faiths of the parents of the students. And I think they need to be flexible. At the same time, you don't want the court micromanaging class plans and what can be in a PowerPoint presentation and what can't. I mean, that just is, that would end up making it impossible to teach about religion in schools. So I think we need a little bit of sensitivity on both sides. And but I think that basically, as long as you try and keep factual in your teaching and not proselytize, then I think the court's going to say it's okay.
Yeah, let the students kind of make up their minds. Present the facts, let them decide.
Yes, yes.
Father Reese, critics say that this decision really amounts to unequal treatment of Christians. What do you say about that?
Well, I'm not sure. I think the course was trying to teach both about Christian faith and Muslim faith, and, you know, world religions, different religions. And if that's what they're trying to do, then I think they're on safe grounds. But if they take sides, that's the problem. That's the problem, of course, also with teaching about the Bible. I mean, I interpret the Bible one way. Someone else interprets it another way. We have people who think it's nothing but a myth. We have other people who think everything in it is historically accurate. And then we have others who say, well, what the religious message, the theological message is undoubtedly true, but it's not always historically factual.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Father Reese, thank you for coming and sharing your insights.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Up next, one church is making a big difference. How 30 days of sacrifice helped lift up more than 30 students at a historically black university. As the nation celebrates Black History Month, one predominantly African-American church in Virginia is making a big difference in the lives of students at a historically black university in Washington, D.C.
That's right. Alfred Street Baptist Church hopes its planned act of kindness will spark churches around the country to follow its lead to give. Take a look.
Maya Thompson has a short window after class to pick up her 6-year-old son, Makai, before her shift as a 911 operator begins.
It's very complicated. So by Monday morning, I'm up at 7, getting Makai to school. Get him to school by 7:45, no later than 8:15. At 3, I'm rushing out of class to go pick up Makai to take him to my aunt's house. And then right there, I'm leaving there to rush to my job so I can start my 12-hour shift.
Thompson goes to Howard University, established 2 years after the Civil War to provide African Americans with an opportunity for higher learning. But it comes at a cost.
I get financial aid, but sometimes it doesn't cover, like this semester, it doesn't cover my whole, tuition package that I have to pay to the university.
Now the load she carries as she prepares to graduate this spring just got a little lighter.
The fact that this weight is lifted off my shoulder, I'm forever grateful. I will forever think about this.
Thompson is one of 34 students at Howard University who just became a recipient of an act of kindness from on high.
I'm pastor of Alfred Street Baptist Church. A lot of these people here are from Alfred Street. We're in Alexandria, Virginia. And we want to let you know your account has been paid in full, man. Congrats, man. Thank you.
The congregation at Alfred Street decided to fast for 30 days, abstaining from food, social media, and money, and raising $150,000.
We just want to take care of the hold that's on your account today. And so today, we're going to pay your account full.
Thank you so much.
Alfred Street cleared the accounts of students with balances from $100 to nearly $10,000 and caught their reactions.
Your account balance has been paid in full.
Really? My mom died my freshman year, so I've been doing it by myself for a while, so I'm just really grateful. Thanks.
I know my mom probably, the first thing she probably do was scream. I remember when we were in the car, like homeless. It was never one night I never saw her stop praying. Like she kept praying and praying and praying, and like her courage, even though we were at the low of the low, she still believed in God, and she still believed that there's gonna be some miracle that's gonna happen that we're gonna be out of the situation. So her knowing this news, she's gonna scream, most likely. She's gonna cry out. She's gonna be so happy. And for me, it's I kind of feel disappointed in myself because I should never have thought that God had forgotten me.
Thompson says the unsolicited gift from Alfred Street has renewed her own faith.
I felt like God was calling to me. I'm like, hey, you got my attention. I don't know if you was trying to get it all along, but it's I'm listening to you. Now, what do you need me to do?
Awesome. Well, the congregation at Alfred Street had no idea where their sacrifices and donations would end up, joining together as a church to place their full faith in God that their generosity would find its way to the right place.
Great piece. I loved watching some of their reactions.
Great piece produced by our great producer, Gabe LaMonica, and a wonderful way to end the week.
Yeah, very uplifting.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great weekend.